This is Mole Woman right here. Or Gopher Woman. Polaya. Oh. See her arms reaching down in front of her. Her legs. She's sitting. And she's watching. White. Hello, good morning. Randy Lewis here, Kayachen. I'm with my really good friend here, Nick Zentner, and we're standing right now. We are at the base of Snaptakalks, the backbone of Spexman. And I think most of you are familiar with the story that I've told about Red Star and Blue Star defeat Spexman. Well, Spexman was the great dragon. He was the greatest of all creations that Coyote had created. And for thousands and thousands of years, for millenniums, he existed unopposed. And finally, he was defeated by Red Star and Blue Star. And at the final chapter of Spexman, they took his spine. He and the twins and the animal people lifted his spine, and they brought it up here and they planted it in the ground. And after they planted it in the ground, it grew here, and it grew, and it grew. So then he asked Polaya right here, Mole and Gopher, to watch out. And up here we have Weasel, White Weasel, that stands up there too. They watch Spexman. They watch to make sure that he's never reanimated, that somebody does not bring him back. And he actually stretches out, his spine stretches out and runs along the edge here and pops up down there a little farther. The watchers, there they are. You. Weasel. The Weasels. The Weasley family.
Probably got a better angle here than I did when we first started. So one more time, if you would.
Yes.
The names.
So here, you know, we got a really good shot of this. Mm-hmm. We have the sloth, not really. We have the weasels, White Weasel. And the weasels were two of the watchers. They stand side by side. You have the bigger weasel, the long-tail weasel, and the short-tail weasel. I guess that's how it goes. Anyway, one was supposed to be the white weasel and the brown weasel. And below it here we have two more of the watchers, Polaya, the gopher, and the shrew. And their job is to stand watch, to make sure that Spexman doesn't come back to life, or somebody doesn't bring Spexman to life. Let's go a little farther and you get a better view of Polaya, woman, gopher woman. See, right here, if you look at the top, you'll see on this side her nose and her mouth, her chin coming down. I can see it, yeah. Then her arms are wrapping around, sitting on her, yeah. Isn't that great?
That is great.
I stole her hairdo. Don't go there. Silhouette that with the horizon. Oh yeah.
Right there. That's her profile.
Isn't that wonderful? And she took one of the, see? That, those concretions, those conglomerates.
Yep.
She's sitting on one, so.
Oh yeah, right. Her name one more time.
Polaya, but we call her Polaya. It's gopher woman or gopher girl.
That is perfect.
She's like Paleolithic artwork.
Yeah.
I didn't know her personally, but I heard she's a fine woman. Plain but good-hearted girl.
But your great aunt knew her, though.
She probably birthed her. When I was a child, if I can say that, when I was a kid, when I was a brat, which I was, we lived up over on the other side of this big, huge piece of escarpment here. We lived up there on top on Grubb Road, and our neighbors, John Grubb, Dorothy Grubb, and their kids. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Tammy. And we all ran around. We spent a lot of time together up here. But probably some of the most valuable periods of my life, I would say the most valuable periods of my life, were spent up here. And with this as my, I guess you could say, this is my playground to explore. And as a kid, I was always chasing bobcats or trying to catch rattlesnakes to bring home to show everybody. Imagine having a child like that now, huh?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
Kind of I butted heads with my granddad. And, but my great-granddad, my grandfather's father, he was pretty cool with it. And he would sit on the lawn up here, and the lawn pretty much overlooked this whole area.
Oh my gosh.
And so he'd keep an eye on, see, my mom and my granddad. My mom was the crew boss up here, the picking foreman.
Oh.
And my grandfather was the crew boss. And so they were always busy. So it was my great-granddad, my great-aunt, Lucy Nason, who were in charge of keeping me under control. My older brother, he was pretty sedate, calm. How would I say that? Controllable.
He was a rule follower.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was really good at minding. I was the opposite. And my dog was worse.
Oh.
My dog was always leading me into adventures up here. But can you imagine having this as your playground?
I cannot, and I'm trying to picture a young Randy coming over that ridge.
I rolled
with his
really
dog.
well. I rolled a lot. I fell and I rolled. I bounced, I rolled. And
So as a kid, did you know the stories about
yeah, well,
these?
that was my granddad, my great-granddad, well, my grandfather, Jerome Miller. I think he found it necessary to tell me, I think for the reason of keeping an eye, or how'd you say it, respecting the area. Always show respect. Don't spit around up here. You know, there was not taboos, but just, I guess you could say, general etiquette. And so he told me the story, but he told me the story from the perspective of him taking me down on the boat, he and my brother and my cousins, and we go down to Columbia to Speckman's Head sticking out of the water. And that began the long 5-part
Yes.
the epic story.
Yeah.
And it was. So then we would come up here, then he would show me where, you know, about this.
Oh my Lord, this is...
Isn't that spectacular?
It's spectacular. That's the best word for it.
And if you can, I don't know how many of you have been walking out into the hinterlands, out into the wildlands, and you'll come across the backbone or the spine of a deer or a goat or whatever's died out there, a horse. It'll give you an idea of why they call it the backbone, because it's like the ribs and stuff, or the top of the spine sticking out all along here. And these here, look at these ribs here. Well, as a kid, I was just stupid. I would see how much I could get into there. See that cave in there? I wanted to get in there all the time because I knew there just had to be all kinds of goodies in there. There's probably bobcat kittens in there, cubs.
Occasionally some volcanic activity where you can kind of rework that stuff. Like these are some beautiful rhyolites here, some very pink, pink lava clasts. But this is almost like a riverbed that maybe was then swept up into some sort of explosive volcanic activity.
It's one of those things where Coyote, when Coyote, we attribute Coyote to the one who broke the wall of ice with his chlap.
Okay.
His chlap is that big log you see sticking out of the side of the cliff there. And he planted that there at the end, saying that, he said, the world has been destroyed twice by water and by ice. The next time it'll be by fire. He pronounced, or he, I guess you say, he tells all the living beings. This here is a reminder, as he placed it. So this was from the flood he talks about.
Okay.
About the waters. That is spectacular.
It's
whoa. So this is the resting ground of Spexman, the dragon, or the biggest portion of him. And all around, Coyote raised the watchers. He raised the watchers like he did mole and gopher down here, and weasel. He raised them like these beings here that are in the front. Those I think are supposed to be watchers also, but I don't know their names.
okay.
But they're like when we were at Moses Coulee.
Yep.
They protect the valley. They watch over it.
Mm-hmm.
And someday somebody will sing Spexman's song and raise the dead. And in our world, the only two that can do that are Wenatchee, Bigfoot, and Coyote, little people.
Mm.
They come together. One day, as Grandma said, or Grandpa and Grandma, Auntie Lucy, one day this world will cry out in so much pain that they will bring Spexman back. And then you will know hell on earth, is what Auntie said. Then you will know hell on earth, because there's nothing that could stop him after that. And so it feels like that day is coming.
And would you say just a handful of people understand the significance of a place like this? I mean, we can all say it's unique, but
we were, my tribe, our families were driven out of here. They were driven out of here in the 1800s after the Nez Perce Wars down in the southeast corner of Washington State, and because there were land grab people everywhere around here trying to stake claim to everything, gold miners over here on the other side. There was this big urgency to get us out. And so you take that 4 generations, 5 generations, 6 generations, separation from being able to access this area and being able to, even after 2 generations, it's gone. A lot of that information. The only reason, I was lucky because we lived here. And so, and my grandparents, my grandfather, he was quite familiar with it. In the old time days, they would camp down here. Well, there was a major village around the other side of the mountain here, around the other side of the hill. This is Stemilt, where Stemilt means the grizzly bear. My grandma used to say when I was running away from home, she'd say, okay, when you run away, she said, let me know how the Shiaya is, the sarvice berries. Oh, yeah. Or get some sarvice berries while you're gone. So
you were looking for a little more reaction than that, maybe.
It's like,
what? You're leaving? No. What can we do to help?
Aren't you going to miss me? Oh, for a minute. Occasionally, but not permanently.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Look at this concretion. Bad skin. This is the hide of Spexman.
This is the hide of Spexman.
Never stop being a kid.
Oh, it is so crispy out here, you would swear it's Labor Day.
I know.
We're like a month and a half ahead of time.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's one
no.
Word, one word for it.
No.
Goodness sakes.
This reminds me of some of the red rock that we would find up here. Crumbly ferrous oxide.
Get it in the sun.
Yeah, and it was just so brick red.
Yeah. So now we're more into the rhyolites and the andesites and the lavas themselves. Interesting. I just don't understand. This is absolutely outstanding.
It looks like every Canadian home I've ever seen.
It does. What does that mean?
Because they do all these houses with stucco.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, this is matrix supported as opposed to class supported. This is not just a pile of cobbles, and so there's maybe some kind of explosive ash deposit, ash flow deposit, maybe a lahar even.
Yeah, it sounds...
kind of a volcanic mud flow thing. I mean, and we're in the neighborhood of like 30 million years ago from my world, and that's
You're older
before
than I thought.
before the great lavas. But after the sandstone of the Peshastin Pinnacles, for instance.
Right.
So it's a chapter between kind of 40 and 25 million years ago that I know very little about.
Why?
There's not that many exposures of this stuff, and it hasn't been studied very carefully.
Ah, this is great. What amazes me is, I swear to God, this tree was here 65 years ago.
I believe you.
Doesn't look very old, but it's seen time. There used to be some in here, but I think they burned in a wildfire.
Mm-hmm. So what is the best case scenario? That some of this is purchased and turned over to some kind of
conservancy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that there's too many people who want to develop right next to such a dramatic area.
Right.
I can see Starbucks right here and 7-Eleven across the road. Quiz note.
Yeah, yeah.
So it needs to be maintained. And the only way to maintain it is to protect it. Give it a walking path, much like they did in Nahattan Canyon.
Yep.
To where hikers staying on the trail can go. This here, it's just random. People go everywhere if they want to. But I think if you had a designated trailhead that told them, gave them the story of it, why it's important to stay on the trail. And don't be a crazy 7-year-old and start picking up rocks everywhere you see them.
So it would be an interesting stay on the trail, but not for the typical reasons that are usually set at a trailhead, like stay on the trail because of native grasses or because of rattlesnakes or something else. This is staying on the trail because of this is a spiritual place.
It is. This is like when you go to the Sistine Chapels, when you go to Mecca. Not anybody can go into Mecca. Nobody can go in there.
Right.
No one can go into the Grand Mosque.
Yeah.
And this is the same way. That's what this is to us. There are remnants of our people. There are footprints of our people everywhere here. For 10,000, 12,000 years, they've been here. They were here. And these cliffs, kind of like Singing Rocks when we were up there, will still echo our voices, which means our souls are there. Our afterlife. And some of these people received their visions atop one of these spires that you see here. They saw their future, their destiny. Well, thank God it's not easy to access. And hopefully people will stay off from them. My greater reason for talking about it is that if you don't talk about it, things tend to disappear. Things are stolen, or a house is put in without you knowing it, or without anybody knowing it, because no one has been informed about what the spiritual nature of these, the traditional cultural property this is, the value it is to the indigenous people of the Wenatchee, just how sacred and how important it is. Well, I as a homeowner would say, well, nobody told me about it. Well, now everybody can tell you about it. They can shout you down about it. That's happened up in the Methow, where we were told not to tell anything about it. But I did, and I made a map that said, okay, this is a sacred spot. This is Little Village. And sure enough, a year later, here come the grader and started grading it off. And right now, all the neighbors got on them, called the tribe and said, hey, they're tearing up Little Village. And the tribe put a halt to it immediately. And had they not known, had those neighbors not known, it would have been razed, and that would have been it. Their little housing development would have went in. So they had to retreat and doctor the place up and do as much of the repair as they could to it. And I see they moved downriver now, and they're doing another area, which I have no say over. That's private land, and I don't have anything recorded as to what was there. But oh my God, do you see what we have to do now?
We got to go down.
Like I said, when I was younger, I rolled really well. So I tended to roll off these places.
Well, I'll go first. You can come right behind me, and if you slip, you can tackle me.
You're a brave man there, Nick Z.
So did I hear that right, that Stemilt means grizzly bear?
Yeah.
And that this was a main corridor for grizzlies going between the high country and down to the river?
Yeah, this was their coming down for the salmon.
Very cool.
Right at the mouth. And there was a big village. I mean big. It was huge when you talk about Indian-sized villages. There were probably 1,200, 1,600 people at the mouth here.
At the mouth.
And there was some humongous lodge sites, pit house sites that were semi-subterranean, much like the Mandans, earthen lodges. These were 60 feet across.
60 feet, really?
Yeah.
Do you think every side canyon coming into the Columbia generally had a big sediment?
Right at the mouth. Generally at the mouth, and further up you'll find winter encampments where it was out of the elements, the winds. But that was the nature of having earth lodges. It really did give you a great amount of protection.
And there are literally geologic maps that color Wenatchee Heights orange, and then you go, oh, I'm going to read what the orange is in the explanation.
Big question mark.
Exactly right.
Crickets and question marks.
Did I tell you that before? Did
No.
you see that on your own? That's exactly what they have. They've got more question marks than words.
I knew it was unique. We all did.
Yep.
We knew it was unique. This stone itself, that the Creator lifted it.
Oh, well, that's the opposite way to have a lake on top of Wenatchee Heights. Wenatchee Heights used to be down here with the lake, and then you lifted.